All right, so how are we doing, Lobeh?
Yeah, very well, thank you, Robert.
Yeah, how's it feel being in the presence of the breakfast show crew to see the madness that's hiding behind the scenes?
Oh, it's been an honor, really.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, but well, you have to kind of erase a bit where I was like moonwalking on the table. Okay, that bit you can't let people know. You can't go on, speak about these things there. Okay, like moonwalk on the table, and you know what I'm saying. You cannot tell people about these things. Okay.
I won't.
Okay, wonderful. We give thanks for that. So, our lady, so today you've come in and basically you've had a powerful experience with yourself, and there's something that you want to make to cause awareness about that affects 1 in 500 women. Yeah. Okay, 1 in 500 women. Now, that might sound like a huge demographic, but when you think about how many women are actually in the UK, that could be quite shocking, right? So tell us, what are you going to be sharing with us today?
Yes, I want to raise awareness about a condition called postpartum psychosis, which usually happens to women within 2 weeks after giving birth.
Okay.
It's quite a serious mental illness, and there's not much awareness. It is a lot more rarer than, say, postnatal depression, which we'd call the baby blues, or more to do with a lower mood. But the psychosis, it has many variants. So postpartum psychosis.
Go ahead.
Yeah. It's for some women anyway. It's an elated mood. It's an elated mood, which could compose of hallucinations, delusional beliefs, auditory hallucinations, so they feel that they're hearing voices, and a lot of the components of it is to do with the actual birth and some beliefs around the child.
Some beliefs, so it affects your beliefs concerning the child.
Yes, those are the most common characteristics.
Hallucinations.
Yes, audible
hallucinations.
Yes, as well. Yes.
So you're seeing stuff, you're hearing stuff, and your beliefs concerning this child that you've been carrying for 9 months is being changed, is being affected.
Absolutely, and it's very much their reality.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is happening to 1 in 500 women.
Yes, it does. Yes, and it's even more prevalent if obviously the person has a history of mental health as well. Yeah. Oh
wow. All right, guys. So look, we're going to be going in today. All right, and there's nothing better in order to. The greatest lesson is in someone who's had an experience. So not only are you someone that's creating awareness, but you're someone who's actually been through it yourself.
Yes, lived experience. Yeah,
your lived experience. Now, I'm curious to know. Tell us a bit about your experience.
Yes. So I have to take it back to 2009.
Wow.
I was in my last year of studies at university. I got diagnosed with clinical stress, and then I went into rehabilitation. I came out within a week in a psychiatric unit, and then I came out within a week because I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating because of the level of stress, and I actually had a episode. That was the first time I had a psychiatric episode, psychosis.
Okay. So let me understand. So you're a university student.
Yeah.
Was it your final year?
It was my final year.
Final year university student. You're doing well in your university
Doing
study?
really well, yeah. Just the pressure, the dissertation and other bits as well. And because it was a degree that had a placement, so I was working. And then I was in the whole university life, and then I had dissertations to do. So I stopped sleeping for consecutive days. I just could not actually shut my brain down.
Oh, that's a crazy feeling.
Yeah.
When you're working towards something and you're just totally on it, and you can't rest, right? You can't rest. And even Hugo, I was having a conversation in the production area with Hugo one time, and there's that thing where you're working even though you're sleeping, because you're so caught up in what you're doing.
That's it.
And so you had that, and as well, you was already a mother at that time.
No, I wasn't a mother then, so that's where it started.
That's where it started, okay.
So then I got diagnosed with bipolar in 2009.
Wow.
I went into a psychiatric unit. I was about 23, 24. Came out of that unit. I had psychotherapy, and then I was well. I had my first child. I was fine. My second child, I was fine. Third child, there were some indications that my moods were changing, but I didn't actually have any psychotic episodes since that time in 2009 until...
Sorry to cut you, but when you said psychotic episodes, like what kind of things were happening with that?
So sort of, talking. So these are the sort of things with psychosis. So talking really fast.
And this is before the child.
This is way before the child. So this is this is where I'm sort of high risk. So according to research, because I've already had a bipolar diagnosis, in my pregnancy, I'm going to be at high risk of possibly having postpartum psychosis.
Okay, because here's the thing. Because my thing is that bridge from being healthy, focused, university student to being diagnosed, bipolar and all the rest of it. So we know there was stress, right? At that point, what other things was manifesting to the surface for people to say like something's not okay here with Lobeh at that point? What other things
at that time? Just my reactions. I was quite aggressive. I thought I was seeing things. I thought there was a cloud following me. So sort of expressing that. And then I went into work. So this is where I actually got sectioned. I went into work and I was shouting at the workplace. I was shouting in the workplace that people were following me, people were looking at me, so they could see that something wasn't quite right. But at this point, I hadn't slept.
Wow.
So this is where I was sort of functioning, but I wasn't 100% in my rightful mind. Yeah.
So how long had you not slept for?
Just consecutive days. So I would say about maybe 3-4 days.
3-4 days without sleep.
Shut down. Yeah.
And if you try to rest, your brain is still working.
My brain is working.
Hey, Captain Hugo, you hearing this? 3-4 days.
It's terrifying.
Right? Obviously, was you with your husband at that time?
No, I was single.
So was it you dealing with it by yourself?
Yes, I was alone. I had my own house, and I was by myself.
Did you have friends as well at that time?
Yes, I had friends. Yeah. But at the time of the episode, no one was really around me.
You started to isolate yourself.
Yes, yeah.
Look, guys, this is really, really, really important. All right. So maybe sometimes, like myself, we've seen situations of people having outbursts on the street. Like I'm from Brixton area. We have different things happening in Brixton, and we're seeing what's happening at the time. Yeah. But at one point, the person was okay. At one point, the person was fine. They had their dreams, plans, working towards their stuff, doing well. But stresses, life, situations, mental health is such a fragile thing. Yeah. So fragile. And, you went through that. Then, you diagnosed bipolar, right? Yeah. You're still dealing with it and you're by yourself, right? Then obviously I believe your husband came in during the way when you started to get better.
Way after. So after that episode, I started coming to the church and I started engaging in the services and everything. And I engaged with treatment as well, and I was better. I was fine. Okay. So when I had the psychotherapy, they didn't choose to use medication at that time because I was my age and also the way I was engaging. So I was in recovery, and they call it in remission. So I was fine. Yeah. Then years had passed. So that was the 2009. So years had passed. I met my husband in 2012. By then I'd qualified in my profession. Nice. Gotten married, and life was fine.
You switched that situation. You shut that situation down. You flipped it over. It's like I came through. Yeah. You followed what the doctor was saying. You was coming to the church. You was going to the health center. So you was getting the support there. So you had a community around you of support as well. And you're like, yeah, we're good. Did what you need to do at university, husband. Yeah.
Got my profession, started working. And just, it was, as the doctor said, it's something that happened, it's something that you went through. But be careful of stresses. Stresses are something that my coping mechanisms at that time were not able to hold up. But when I started to use my faith, even though stresses were coming to my life, I was able to withstand. And also being able to switch off as well and say, look, this can leave for later, and not having that build up. Because that was what was actually happening, is I was letting things build up and up and up.
And sometimes we need to be coached to how to manage things, isn't it? Sometimes we've just gone into life to do things for ourselves, but we haven't been coached on how to manage stress and how to we never get taught that. We get told Battle of Hastings, you know, but we never get taught how to manage stress. And these things will come, right?
Yes. So it was totally behind me, you know. I felt that was unrelated, but it's only when I had the postnatal psychosis with my fourth child, that's when it was brought up that I was actually high risk. But prior to that, it never came into question. So I had my first child. There were no complications, no issues. Second child, no complications, no issues. The third child, they did see hormone imbalances in me, but it wasn't so much alarming. And then with my fourth child, this is where I actually got diagnosed with the postnatal psychosis. And that was mainly to do with the trauma around the birth, the complications, and some of the things that sort of the stresses that came out through that. So this is 2018. So 2009 was the bipolar. Well, all the way throughout, and then 2018, boom.
And the thing about it is, I can imagine that time you're concerned about the child. If the birth wasn't straightforward, you know, you're trying to balance everything. You're wondering what's happening, what's going on. And so, how did the symptoms emerge? So I'll tell you just a little bit before about the birth. So the birth was a elective C-section, so that was supposed to be quite straightforward. When the baby was born, they said she'd swallowed meconium, and she wasn't breathing. She had to be resuscitated. Is meconium what the fluid? So
this is their first bowel movement. So it passed, and the baby would do that when there's some kind of distress during the birth. But because it was elective C-section, it should have been quite straightforward. But complications happened. So she wasn't breathing when she was born. She had to be resuscitated, and we didn't have the body contact that you would usually have. So she was rushed off. That was the first step. She went into a neonatal intensive care unit to be cared for, and I went to a separate ward. I was medically fit and fine, so I was to be discharged. And this is where the arguing started, because I didn't want to leave the baby in the unit unwell. I was quite worried about that. So they allowed me to stay, and then the baby was brought to me eventually after treatments. And then we were eventually discharged. So within 2 weeks we were discharged from the hospital, from postnatal ward. When I went home, a couple of days later, I was fitting in the bed. I was clammy, I was fitting, and these are supposed to be markers of infection. So I had to go back here. I had to be readmitted again to be scanned, and there were parts of my placenta that were still left inside of me. So then I had to undergo another surgery as well to get that vacuumed out. And from there, that's where the deterioration started to come. The aggression, the not sleeping, my health started to go down very, very quickly. I developed high blood pressure, and it was all around the trauma of the birth. When I returned home, that's where the erratic behavior came. So the beliefs, 3 days after I gathered, items in my home to do a car boot sale. All the while.
Why?
Just because I just felt it was something that I needed to do. And this is the thing about the condition is for myself, these things were so important. I have to do this. I need to do this. I can't sleep. I have to organize the room. I can't do that. And all the while, I'm not actually caring for my newborn baby. I'm sort of doing many things, but not caring for the baby.
So it's like, so these things were put as a priority, erratic behavior with these things that were put in the forefront of your mind, diverting your attention from the actual child.
Yes.
Was that like a coping mechanism concerning what was happening, or it's just how things were being led according to how you...
It's just being led. It's just the loss of faculties in my mind, my capacity, not understanding exactly because there was a crossover. So from the hospital, from the first discharge, the obsession was they're trying to take my baby, they're trying to harm my baby. Then when I was actually discharged, the second time around, I was well and I was fit to go home. By that point, I had actually deteriorated so bad, but it was hard to detect. So at this point now, it's gone away, the attention, the obsession's gone away from the child, but onto other beliefs that I needed to do these things, I needed to go these places, I needed to, just restlessness, not sleeping. And I was driving, Robert. I was driving the car and going out and coming back, and I would not. And the fixation was, waking up in the morning and going out, and no one could actually really understand what was going on inside the mind. Yeah.
So, obviously you had your husband at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, what from what you can tell, what was he seeing? What was happening with him?
Yeah.
How did he react to this behavior?
Oh, we reacted. Yeah, he tried to support. He tried to give advice, but it's just this adamance that a person would have. He did sort of seek for help. He sought for medical help. He spoke with other members of my family, my mother and everything like that. But it's very hard to detect, because it's like, what is normal behavior after having a child, and what is abnormal? And then, am I being myself or am I not being myself? It's only when it gets really erratic, sort of to the very end of the spectrum, that is detected. And that's the reason why it's so important to raise awareness, because I think everyone could see something is not right here, but then the justifications are so right. I need to sell stuff because I don't have space for the baby's things. But it's like, well, why does it have to be done now?
Yeah. And why the energy, assertiveness behind
exactly. it? Yeah.
Wow. So you said, when did you realize that it's gone to a side of the spectrum which is quite dangerous? When did you notice that?
I have to be honest, some of the things I don't even remember doing. It's people telling me that this is what you actually did. But I think it's the aggression, the restlessness again, the not sleeping. So the components again, which appear to be like the bipolar, came back. So that not being able to switch off, over talking, overthinking, total loss of, inhibitions, really. Total loss of inhibitions.
So after you've done all that hard work, your goals, inhibitions started to fade away.
Everything fades. So every day is like a different mission. And I would say it's like something else had control over my body, had control over my mind on a daily basis.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And you're still living as a regular person in our community.
Yeah.
Right. And if we look at you for a moment, everything seems okay.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes and in the mind, there's all this kind of stuff happening.
It's a lot of confusion. So sort of walking around in the street. Just so many components I can't even begin to understand. And then the slipping away from that, from the consciousness to the unconsciousness, where I'm finding myself places I don't know how I got there.
Wow.
I'm doing something, I don't know why I'm doing that, and not being able to roll it back, sort of thing. And I think everything came to a halt when I had sort of travelled out of my area. And I was found in an apartment. I think it's a friend's apartment, and I had to be sectioned because I was sort of, everybody was sort of looking for me. I was a missing person.
Wow!
But I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing.
Yeah.
Just literally absconding. But it still comes back to, if it's a normal, well, I wouldn't want to say no, but you know what I mean. If it was generally just by myself and I'm traveling up and down, it wouldn't be an issue. Is the fact that I've given birth just 3 weeks ago.
Wow. Look, what we're gonna do, we're gonna find out about your worst moment, all right, and then you're gonna help us. But you can see, friends and family, those of the Breakfast Show family, that this is quite serious. The reason why is because we see everybody day-to-day basis. We look in their eyes. We can see them smile. We see them going about stuff, but we don't know what the person's going through. And sometimes like right now, what Lobeh is sharing with me, if I saw Lobeh at that time, I'd be like, "Hi, Lobeh," but like there's stuff happening. The husband's trying to figure out what's happening, but we don't know that the trajectory is going in a particular direction, which isn't positive. So we really have to look out for each other. But we're going to find out Lobeh's worst moment, and she's also going to give us some tips on signs. Well, she's already given us signs to look out for. But what she did to get help and how you can help somebody else as well. Very, very important, guys. Your Breakfast Show. I'm going to hand you over to the one and only Captain Hugo for a song, and we'll be right back with more from Lobeh after this.
Connect online Monday to Friday with special guests for inspiration, motivation to start your morning right. Music, banter, fun and laughter. Connect when you start your mornings with The Breakfast Show. Only on libertyradio.co.uk. That's right, The Breakfast Show is back. libertyradio.co.uk from 6:30 a.m.
This is your Breakfast Show. All right, guys, and we're here having an interview with the one and only Lobeh Asiah, joining us today speaking about postnatal psychosis. All right, it's been a really powerful interview for me because it just kind of shows to me that you just don't know what people can be going through, how our mental health really is a gradient that if we're not managing ourselves right, losing sleep, being so fixated on certain things, do you get what I mean, that really don't hold that much value in the the full spectrum of when we look at a situation, which in your case was studies and all that kind of stuff that you was forcing, that you wanted. We can just snap. We can just snap, and a whole host of problems happen. And you were speaking about after the situation, we had a very tough delivery of your fourth child, and then obviously you had this the situation with the postnatal psychosis. Symptoms were very light, but certain things started to happen to you. You was doing things like creating a car boot sale. You're so focused in so many different things in a very unhealthy way, neglecting the child, busy with so many things. Then there were blackouts where you're ending up in places you didn't know, walking the streets, and most people look at that and will say, what's going on with this person? We just wouldn't, normal people wouldn't understand, but there's things happening, and you came from a good home, you're an educated person, do you get what I mean? And all this stuff was happening. Now tell me, you right now, you're an advocate to make people aware about this condition. And by the way, before we continue, I have to make sure I mentioned the Breakfast Show talkers. So we have here George saying good morning, everyone, good morning. That's good morning to you, George. Thank you for joining us. We have Ariane Joanna, our Breakfast Show faithful from Taiwan, saying want to hear more, interested. We have Orthosia Dolo saying hello, first time listener from South Africa. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us, Orthosia Dolo, and I hope you continue to listen and connect with us on the Breakfast Show from 6:30 in the morning GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, like UK time. All right, and we have Olu as well joining us saying good morning all. That's it, guys. So what's the kind of we've heard your situation, what was going on. I'm going to ask you what things helped and what we can do to help, but what are the worst types of scenarios that you've come across concerning this condition?
So the condition is different for everybody, and for some people they start to show some symptoms within 2 weeks of giving birth, but it can be anything up to a year.
Oh wow.
As sort of a volunteer for a charity organisation that works with postnatal psychosis, we've seen fatal cases where the fixation is not so much about making space, like for me, but where they believe the child has come to harm them.
Wow.
So they've harmed the child. We've had cases of women who have been fixated thinking the child is actually the second coming of Jesus.
Oh wow.
And sort of
They behave.
Everything that comes, behaving erratically, going around, believing the child has superpowers. We've had cases where...
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, you need to control the amount of television you're ingesting yourself. But seriously.
But the fatal cases are more serious ones where the mother has not fed the child just recently and the children have passed away in the home.
Oh, wow.
And this is days after giving birth and just not having that aftercare. It's more serious for people who don't have families around them as well, support systems around them. And it's not to blame anyone, but it hasn't been detected in the hospital because, like I said, with me, it was a slippery slope and it just wasn't easily detected because with postnatal depression, I think you can see straight away the person has a low mood. They haven't got that strength. And there's also components of that in postnatal, by the way, postnatal psychosis, where it's a low mood. They don't have the strength to do everyday things. They don't have the ability to care and to tend to the child. I think with postnatal psychosis, why it's quite a hidden thing is that the woman would wake up, have a shower, put herself together, put makeup on, and off she goes. And it's this sort of need of quick recovery. So it's hard to detect because what I think is what is the normal behavior and what is not. And also bearing in mind, Robert, as well, that there are hormone imbalances. But birth is very difficult. Women do every day. It's very difficult.
I mean, saying that I was there for both my children getting born, and I'm like, when I saw my child coming into the world, my wife moved to superwoman status. Seriously, what you women go through. I was doing my best. I was holding her hand. She's like, I was like a cheerleader. Yes, breathe. And she's holding my hand. I'm like, you can do it. You can do it. My hands are, I'm like, drink some water. And it's an emotional. Wow.
Exactly. So you have the hormones, you have the mindset, and so everything, it is highly stressful, it is. But I think where it crosses from the norm to it being a condition is that the state of mind is gone. The consciousness of the woman is gone. She's being led by her own beliefs or whatever she believes to be real, which is not real.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes it's just very hard to detect.
Wow.
And it can have fatal consequences.
So, what helped you to come out of it? What helped you to steer out of it, and that we can also take points from to help themselves and help others?
It's got to be immediate treatment because the capacity is gone. I mean, I had to be sectioned. I actually was apprehended by armed police at some point.
What was you doing for that to happen?
Because I was found in the property and they couldn't find, the police force couldn't get down, so armed police were the closest unit. So I had
you.
Yes,
Happy Smiley Lobeh. You must have been like some kind of juggernaut at that time, boy.
They said it was just what was available, but you could imagine the fears around that as well. And then I was brought into the hospital and I had to be put in an acute ward, but I couldn't. Ideally, a woman that's given birth who is facing mental health issues, she should be in a mother and baby unit. This is what we advocate for. Unfortunately, there's not enough beds. There's just not enough beds. So I had to go into an acute ward, psychiatric ward, generic ward with other women that are obviously, some of them are very, very unwell as well. They have their own
that's dangerous
issues. Yes, and I was actually attacked in that place because of the presentation and anything that was going on there. So the first step, if the woman, if there's a psychiatric assessment that can be done either in the home or in if people can see signs that the person is speaking maybe very quickly, they're having a confused thought, they're expressing delusional beliefs, or they're having hallucinations, or they feel something is talking to them, they're able to express that, then there can be a psychiatric evaluation, and then they can go into perhaps a psychiatric unit to begin with as a first step. If the capacity is not there, unfortunately, like with my case, they would have to be sectioned. They would have to be sectioned and brought in to be assessed in a psychiatric unit. As it is to do with maternal mental health, ideally they should be in a mother and baby unit to stay with the child, because many of the cases over time, the beliefs are around the child. People are taking the child, the paranoia, people want to harm my child. And it's this, I have to protect the child.
That's right. So if the child is taken away, it can aggravate things. It can aggravate
and it can even make the symptoms even worse. So that's the first step, a psychiatric evaluation, a mental health assessment, and then professional help. And then, you know, as a course of treatment, every woman has a different experience. What worked for me is the course of treatment is medication at first. And medication is usually antipsychotic drugs. And that will sort of alleviate some of the psychotic moods. And as the person starts to come around, then I ended up with psychotherapy, so talking therapies to try and find out what is the root cause. And try to find out my ideas and why, you know, if I could communicate as well, why I felt that way and what happened. And my one was very much around the trauma of the birth and the paranoia around that.
Okay. So find the roots behind it.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So what else could, and what, so we have Jeanette from South Africa. Oh, by the way, Claudia says from Stratford says good morning. Jeanette from South Africa says, oh my, first time I hear of this condition, so much can go wrong if it's undetected. You know. So you're talking about looking for signs first. Yes. Confused thoughts, speaking fast, some light erratic behavior that can be escalating. And with you, obviously there is medical treatment as well. But also there was, but obviously you didn't just rely on medical treatment as well, isn't it?
No. So I had to. So the medication is sort of the start. I would say it's the start of the treatment, and then after that is about the talking therapies. I cannot sort of stress enough that I never had the experience of going into a mother and baby unit, so I don't quite understand how their treatment focus goes, because even after the psychotic symptoms go down, then that loss of confidence is gone in terms of how you bond with the child. Sometimes the bonding stage has been missed. And now it's about rebuilding the person. So from the psychosis, which could be hypomania, where the person is erratic and could be aggressive presentation and, being told to, you need to relax. Oh, no, I'm not relaxing. You relax. That kind of snapping. From there, it can go down to a depressive. Now it's, oh, look at what I done. And even for myself, you'd get flashbacks. Through recovery, you get flashbacks. So it can turn into a depressive and a type of shame that the person, oh, I did this and I did that, and how am I going to look after the baby? Do people trust me? Social services usually get involved as well because of the welfare of the child. So it's working and navigating around services as well. So there has to be some kind of talking therapy after it comes out that medical stage. So recovery is very, very gradual. And it's not just one treatment, Robert. I mean, it has to be a variation of treatments that will help the person to recover eventually. And it can take anything up to a year or even more.
So all right, so now so you obviously what's happened is you came through this. And I believe you're having a family, having a community around you helped a lot, right? So like when you're going through stuff, don't be by yourself when you're going through it. Don't try, don't shut people out, and obviously you became an advocate to voice this condition, right? And what's the organization that you're with, the charity that you work with? So there was two charities that really just really helped me with my recovery, and even when I was in the hospital as well. So the UCKG Help Centre, first of all, the pastor was able to come and visit me in the hospital. My faith is very important to me, and I feel my faith is what gave me the hope of recovery, first of all. So I'd get visits and prayers as well. In my downtime at home, I'd never, when I got the diagnosis, I'd never heard of this condition before in my life,
because I think for me, what I couldn't connect is I wasn't down. I was actually up, elated moods. I was everywhere. So I wanted to understand what it was. And I actually Googled postnatal psychosis, and an organization called Action on Postpartum Psychosis come up, APP.
Yeah, we've put the website onto the live chat, yeah?
That's right. And APP is an organization with women that is focused on raising awareness for postpartum psychosis, another word for it. They have a peer support, and when I got in contact with them, because I felt like I was the only woman in the world that experienced this, they were able to tell me more about the condition. I got a lot of reassurance, and there's also a peer support forum for women to reach out and to talk about their experience, and this is what's happened to me. And most of the volunteers, I'm one of the volunteers, have lived experience.
Wow, strong.
We also have monthly meetups. Obviously, because COVID, we haven't been able to do it, but we've been doing it on Zoom, and just being able to support each other through it, seeing the variations, and as a volunteer as well, seeing such a spectrum of postnatal psychosis, such a spectrum from very mild symptoms to, like I said, even fatalities, very severe stuff. And one of the things that we're pioneering is that it doesn't seem so, I mean, we know that's not the case, because mental health as well is quite a complex issue when it comes to Black and ethnic minorities. It doesn't seem like a lot of women come forward from the Black and ethnic minority. And even within the organisation,
it's a bit of a taboo.
It is a taboo subject. It is. And even more so to do with maternal mental health. But you can look at it from both sides, because sometimes I think with Black and ethnic minorities, sometimes there is more of a sense of community there. You know, there's some African cultures where if a woman gives birth, the mother-in-law, the mother will come and live in and
That's
support.
true.
So maybe that may be the reason why the numbers are small. But still, it seems like majority of the women, even in APP, they tend to be are white,
Yeah, Caucasians.
Yeah, and quite a few of us are Black and ethnic, but we're in a very small percentage. Okay. So it's just getting it out there that this is something that needs to be spoken about. We need to raise awareness. We need to be attentive to the signs as well. And women have to also feel confident in themselves to come forward and share their lived experiences. Because when you have a lived experience, you're able to support others as well that could be going through what I went through and what other women may be going through.
Wow. Lobeh, thank you so much. Literally, I believe me and Una and everyone tuning into the breakfast show today, we have more value for mothers, right? For men, have more value for women. And I think you've cleared a lot of things up for us, and also I think we have more value for human beings. We're dealing with the subject of mental health, and you've shown us how things can get into the extreme in terms of a person's mental health, and when we could be seeing things that we don't understand, we don't know what's happening behind, but we can easily judge a situation just by what we're seeing in that moment. So we really value human beings, we really value our own mental health, to really make sure we take care of us, because things can tip in any direction for anyone, taking care of your spiritual life. I mean, during the time out, you was talking about that. If there's a dip in that can have other areas affected. You know what I mean? Getting help, following advice, having a community around you. Don't isolate yourself. All these amazing things that we can do to help ourselves, and the things that we've learned to create more awareness for us to be careful about the person next to us and look out for them. Yeah, look, Lobeh, keep on doing a great job. Yeah, you're doing a fantastic job. You've come from the other side. You helped, you got yourself sorted out, and you're going out there to help others. And I think that's what being a human being is really about, because life is challenging. Yes. But once we win, we help others to win.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to have you on the show again. I'm sure you've got some other topics up your sleeve that you'll be able to share with us. Yeah. And I think it's a huge one. Everyone's saying thanks in live chat. We have Jeanette from South Africa saying educational and inspiring testimony. Thank God for the open doors of the church. Thanks for sharing, mummy.
Thank you.
You have to give the respect. You see that there? I'm American, you give the respect. All right, guys. But anyway, that's it. We're done. That's our breakfast show done for today.